From the hills of West Virginia to the high rises of Chicago. For over 30 years, Dan Frio has mastered the real estate market as one of the country's premier mortgage advisors. Dan is now sharing his experience and knowledge with the AM 560 audience. So sit back and learn how Dan has helped his clients manage the ups and downs of the real estate market across the country. Now, here's the host of the Mortgage Update, Dan Frio.
Welcome to the Mortgage Update with Dan Frio. And I, of course, am Dan Frio. Today's special edition, as you see on the tagline, is it's tax time. And we're very close to tax time. So what should we do? I asked a friend of mine, Pat Noone, from PJ&N Tax Solutions in St. Charles, Illinois. And I want to know, there's three different buckets when it comes to filing your taxes. Companies you can use. One is the online systems that's, $20 and you can boom, 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 and you do your taxes. The next section is the place right across the street from every McDonald's that does your taxes. And there's probably people in there that love them to death, and they're good people. But, during the day, they might be truck drivers, teachers, housewives, anything of that sort that's doing your taxes. They do it from January to April. Then the place shuts down, goes away, and then they open up next year at a different location. Then there's professionals out there, such as Pat Noone. And so I asked Pat to come in and basically give us the truth behind everything. When should you use these companies and when you shouldn't? Mm-hmm. So welcome, Pat.
Well, thanks, Dan. Thank you for having me. As far as the $20 TurboTax version, that would be good for someone that has a very simple return. Maybe they don't itemize their deductions. They take what's called the standard deduction that the IRS offers. Maybe one or two W-2s between husband and wife, maybe a couple kids. A pretty basic return.
And I've used it in the past a long time ago where you just plug in. It is a cool system.
Right.
It'll say, what's on, grab your W-2, plug in line
Correct.
1 here, line
Correct.
2 here, line 3 here. You finish about 4 pages of steps, which is really nice. You hit click, you're done.
You're done.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but that serves a purpose. It serves a purpose for that clientele base.
Correct.
So now you have ones that then they go to the Jackson Hewitts, the Liberty, whatever. And again, I'm not bashing any of these companies. There's a purpose for all of them. But across the street from every McDonald's, there's a guy outside flipping a sign and they do taxes. What niche do they fit in this whole equation?
They typically work with people who don't want to do the return themselves, either because they don't know how to or they don't want to.
Right.
Okay. And so they'll go to, a tax preparer like an H&R Block or a Liberty or Jackson Hewitt to help them prepare their return. And typically when you are sitting across the desk from those tax preparation firms, they file the return immediately. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the problem is, if you don't have all of your documentation with you when you go there, now you're going to probably have to file an amended return, because you may get a notice from the IRS. It's called a CP 2000 notice, where the IRS says, here's what you show on your return. Here's what we have in our records. Here's the difference. And explain the difference, or, you owe us this amount of tax. Right, exactly. So what we do typically is we'll meet with a client. We'll go over the prior year return, see what changes there are in the current year, and gather all of the tax documents from them. And then we typically have a 2-week turnaround from when we receive the documentation to when we file a return. I worked on one yesterday, brand new client, and the prior year he had made $24,000 in federal estimated tax payments. But there was no information in the current year documents that he dropped off saying that he made the estimated payments. So, naturally I sent him an email and I said, hey, I'm comparing this year to last year. Last year you made $24,000 in estimated payments. Did you make any payments, any estimates this year? He's like, oh my God, I forgot to give you that information. Yes, I did 4 $6,000 quarterly estimated payments.
Got it.
where, that if he had gone to H&R Block, that information wasn't there to begin with. And they'll just go with what you have.
My parents are the perfect example of the B bucket. The places across the street from every McDonald's, their taxes are crazy simple, but they don't have a computer.
Right. And they want to be able to have somebody to go to if there's a problem.
Right.
I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to holler at yourself in the mirror if you did it yourself?
Yeah. Well, in that case, we'll dive down that avenue that you mentioned that. Many times you go to those places that are across from McDonald's. In May, they're not there anymore.
They're gone. Right.
So my parents just have they want to sit down with somebody, give them their paperwork, walk out of there, and they're done. So that's the bucket B.
Right.
Bucket C is you, the tax professional, and that's what you are. And that's why I brought you in here. What's your ideal client? Like, what are they? Self-employed, high-income earners, have all this other stuff. What's that look like?
Correct. Our typical client is someone who maybe has investments in S corporations or in partnerships, or they're self-employed. We have a lot of realtor clients that receive 1099s, and typically those types of taxpayers are more of a challenge than somebody who just gets a straight W-2. Sure. And we deal a lot with real estate investors as well, whereby they'll have multiple rental properties and each one needs to be reported separately. You can't commingle or combine the activities of the various properties.
Gotcha.
That's our typical client.
So it's more, I won't say specifically high end, but more complicated. You have rental properties. You own a company. You get commissioned income. You're paid 1099. If you don't get what I'm saying, you probably wouldn't go to Pat. You'd go to plan A or B. But if you have those things and you know what I'm talking about, that's where Pat comes into play. Here's one of the things that's unique about you is those other companies, you really don't have, you can't go back in May, June, July, you get a notice from the IRS. We got some issues here, buddy.
Right. And they're gone.
They're gone. Where your situation is, you even have packages that people can get that will protect them for X amount of time frame in case of an audit. So tell us about that piece of the puzzle.
So what we offer to our clients, for those clients whose returns we prepare, we offer what's called an audit protection plan. And there's 3 levels of service with that audit protection plan: good, better, best. And typically I put people in the middle program, the better, okay? And it's an additional charge on the return, and it's $99.95. Okay. For 3 years of protection moving forward. Typically, the IRS has 3 years to audit your return in most cases, and this audit protection plan, for the $100 fee, what you're able to get from it is we will respond to all IRS inquiries without a charge. Any notices or love letters that you might receive, we will also represent you in an audit for the first 10 hours. The first 10 hours of an audit, we don't charge for our time because they're covered by the audit protection plan. And also tax identity theft as well is covered.
$100.
$100.
My wife and I went out
3 years going forward.
My wife and I went out to dinner last Saturday and spent $120 when we added the tip.
Yep.
So for that meal, I could have covered my butt for 3 years.
Correct.
That's audit.
Yep.
That's awesome. So that's why I had you on here. I wanted you to explain the differences between the tax preparing companies, what you do a little different, and then a protection plan that they can get from you. So what I'm going to do down below is I'm going to put Pat's information. You'll be able to contact him via phone, his website. And then is there a link if they want to specifically they have to use you for the tax return so they can get that audit protection. So I'll link on there maybe where you can get a free consultation from Pat and or any which way to get a hold of him or myself. So I want to thank Pat for coming in. It's tax time, guys. So if you need some assistance, you're in that category C where you need some help, please reach out to Pat Noone, PJN Tax Solutions. Pat, give us your phone number one last time and then we'll hit him.
630-415 888-848-5296.
If you have any questions, please leave the comments down below. We'll make sure I answer them, or if they're specific for Pat, we make sure that we get those questions to Pat so he can answer you directly. God bless. Hope to see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe down below. Give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Mortgage Update with Dan Frio. For over 30 years, Dan Frio has mastered the real estate market as one of the country's premier mortgage advisors. Call Dan today at 844-775-LOAN. That's 844-775-5626. Or online at thefrioteam.com.